listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
The Energy is Love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is Love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The podcast for the universe.
The Energy is Love podcast.
We suck so bad at a bunch of things today.
I feel like I was mid, and you're like, here we go.
Don't move. Everybody freeze. And if you listen to the promo that was just before this episode for Built Bar, that was take two, that there was quite a bit of take two that was actually edited out of it. So today's a little bit of a, it's a rough day.
It's rough.
It's the day after, not Thanksgiving, because we didn't celebrate Thanksgiving this year, and maybe we'll explain why, but we instead celebrated the day that you eat everything that you want to eat day. Eat all the food day, right?
Eat a lot of food day. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Eat a lot of food day.
Eat a lot of food day.
I don't remember. Our 14-year-old named it.
Mm-hmm.
It was good.
So it's the day after that date, and we both are recovering.
We were injured. We woke up injured from it still.
Yeah, we're still injured from all the amount of delicious food, but yet quite a lot. And we didn't give two fucks and just ate whatever we wanted, which was nice.
It was good.
It was good. And now we're paying the price.
Yeah.
So our brains aren't quite working the way that I want mine to, I know personally. But how's your brain working, babe?
It's on fire. I am on point. Been off for the last week, so
yeah, that
just helped.
It did help.
I just bumped my face on. I'm gonna move this because I'm
too close.
Yeah,
you're fine.
It's okay.
What are we going to talk about today? I had a bunch of, it's like, as always, before we sit down and push record, I always think about all the different things that I want to talk about. And then as soon as we do, they all go out the window.
Out the window.
I know you want to tell a story.
I have a funny story.
Oh, let's hear it. I'm excited.
I wrote down a thing that might be fun to talk about too.
Cool.
I'll just pass it to you. Although I just realized I messed up
I'll look at your list while you tell your story.
I don't know my story. I don't know. It's right out of the gates. I feel like we haven't oomphed enough. I haven't even had a single sip of beer yet to get into my story.
Drink it up.
It's a funny story, and if I tell it right now, let's just shoot the shit for a minute. Let's get me amped up.
All the funny's going to be ruined in the first 5 minutes.
It's funny. It's a. So you call romantic comedies rom-com. What do you call a tragic comedy?
A trauma-com.
A trauma-com? That's going to be, it's a trauma-com.
It's a trauma-com.
It's not quite trauma.
That's a good name.
It is a good name, actually. It's a really good name.
I think they call traumatic comedies black comedies.
Okay.
Or a black that sounds terrible. That makes it sound like it's a racial thing. But that's a thing, like a black comedy or a black film.
So shit just went wrong, but it was funny. It was funny. I persevered.
You did persevere.
Is that what I said?
Persevere. That is what you said.
Did I say it? I wasn't sure. Sometimes you like slide those little corrections.
So we have, yesterday was the day that we ate everything. And the day before that was the day that we prepared all the food for the eating.
So it was 2 days ago. I was still not on fire.
Yeah, it went well. And we made all the usual things. And what else? I don't know.
Cheesecake. That's not a normal.
Well, I'm sure there's lots of people that have cheesecake on Thanksgiving.
They don't have your cheesecake.
Yeah, but it's
not
just
your cheesecake. It's not. You are world renowned. Where you're real. I'll be fine.
You are going to be fine. You've got it.
You're special.
You're so good with the words.
I So, side note, it's been a rough week for me. Mm-hmm. So, there's been a whole lot going on. My brain is just...
A rough year. A month. It's been a rough year.
It's been all of that. This week has been kind of just... It's been what it is.
I want to talk about some of that.
You want to talk about some of that? Okay, so maybe we'll get to that. But my funny story.
Tell your funny story.
I just do it in the middle?
No, I'm excited to hear it.
Well, I'm kind of stalling too because I'm trying to recall the details, and I'm like,
have you blocked it out?
I think I have. So I wanted to do something special. I wanted to add my own stuff in. I'm sure I've talked quite a bit on the podcast about the fact that I cook with love, not with flavor. but there's some things, right?
You're a great cook, Steph.
And you are, but I usually, especially in big productions, I'm not the one in the kitchen. I'm the one that's not in the kitchen. I'm watching the game, asking them to get me another beer. No, I'm just kidding.
We don't watch the game. That's for sure.
Which was another realization we had. But anyways, I wanted to do like the candied yams. I wanted to make those. And then I had this, I did. Yeah, you're pulling a face, or you're just yawning. I thought you were looking at me like, huh? I wanted to make rolls. So I was nervous about raking rolls. I was nervous about making, I almost said making moles. Jesus. Yeah, ladies out there, I'm close. So words are getting mixed up.
I want to talk about that too.
Okay. But I was nervous because tradition is your mom makes rolls. And I didn't want to step on any toes, or obviously that's the standard, that's a level that is very hard to meet. But my Nana also made rolls. And I learned a funny bit. I hope I can remember to say it at the end. Remember, what was it that your mom said? And hopefully that'll be enough to spark me. You'll say that to me at the end if I can't remember.
My mom said something?
No, that'll be my cue. If I forget, I'm like, what was I going to say? You're going to say, what was it that your mom said? Or what was it that your mom reminded us?
Okay.
That's my cue card. That is my...
Okay. I'll remember that at the end.
That'll be my lines. Do you need a cue to remember your cue?
It's all I'm going to think about while you're telling your story.
No, you need to be engaged.
I'm going to be sitting there.
I'm so excited for this to be the funny story that it was yesterday.
2 days ago.
But I don't know how much of it I remember. Okay. So I finally decide this is going to happen. I'm going to make homemade rolls because I'd made homemade bread and it was good. Why are we laughing?
Because I'm thinking about how...
I'm saying rolls instead of biscuits.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking about.
I practiced that?
Yeah. She got very excited. She was going to make rolls, and then she proceeded to refer to them as biscuits nonstop all day long, even after they were finished. And the following day, she's like, man, I made a lot of biscuits. For you, because we've got a lot of people all over the world, and like biscuits mean something different in the UK.
Yeah. I didn't make cookies.
Yeah. Didn't make crackers. Made rolls, bread, fresh bread, rolls, things.
Dinner rolls.
Yeah. Biscuits are typically a breakfast roll. I don't know how it doesn't matter. It was just funny.
See, he can't even describe them apart, so it doesn't matter that I can't.
Yeah.
So anyways, I made rolls. So I'm from scratch, like the yeast and everything. I am rising these rolls from scratch with flour. Sometimes I say if I open up a box, stir the ingredients in a bowl and pop it in the oven, that's still homemade to me. But I did like...
From scratch. Yeah.
From scratch. So I'm excited about this. I'm nervous. I've read the recipe many times. I'm ready to go. There's this part in me that I am nervous, right? But there's this part in me that's like, oh, I'm going to fucking kill this. These are going to be great. I'm going to show you that I have, I just know I'm going to kill this. Don't start laughing yet.
It's a funny story, right?
It is. That part makes it better.
I can laugh all the way along.
So I've worked with yeast once, and that was when I've made, maybe twice, because I think I've made homemade bread twice. Like, I don't know, 15 years ago. So I'm very well practiced. I've got it down. And so starting off with you getting yeast, and I'm looking at the measurements, and it says you have to do 1/4 cup of water to, I think it was, I don't remember now, but I think it was 2.5 tablespoons or 2 tablespoons. I don't remember. It ended up being like 4 teaspoons or 4.5, because I did the conversion on Google. And I probably still have it, but it doesn't matter. I did the conversion. I don't remember what the exact measurements were. So then I get out my measuring spoons that also have most of the measurements are rubbed off. So then I have my 2 handy dandy tried and true teaspoons that I'm just making it work. And then I find one that looks like a 1/2 teaspoon. So then I measure 2 of those, and just to check, I'm like, yep, okay, that's for sure 1/2 teaspoon, because 2 filled a teaspoon. So I'm going the long way. And I'm working with dry active yeast. I don't know what to expect. I expect to get the yeast out of the little packets into the measuring spoons and put them in the thing, and that is it. Well, I don't know what happens, but they're like jumping beans. So pretty soon they're like popping like popcorn, and I'm trying to measure, and it's static in the bag, and it takes forever just to get the measurement out, and it's going everywhere. I used 2 packets because that's how much it took to get the 4 teaspoons.
Because it was popping everywhere?
No, well, it was popping everywhere, but it wasn't. It was like I needed like 4.5 teaspoons is what I think it was. But I needed 2 packets to get that measurement, to get that much. So each packet was about 2 teaspoons.
Okay.
So I've measured it. I got it in there, and I found I have to scrape some off the counter and put it in and like stop, get the warm water that I made it warm anyway. So first step's done. Whew. And then I go to throw it away, and I'm looking at the back of the package of the 1 yeast pack that I have left. And it says that to mix it in 1/4 of a cup of water, which is what the recipe calls for, and that the packet itself is the exact measurement that the recipe called for. So I'm
you
like,
totally could have just dumped the package in.
yeah. So I'm like, okay. So this is a double batch now.
Okay.
It's going to be fine. So
Because you put 2 packages in?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So then I have to try and put water in, which isn't warm, by the way. It's cold water and I have to like hurry up because the yeast is starting to do its thing. It only takes 5 minutes to cure, I think is the word.
No.
Doesn't matter. We're going to move on.
Come alive. Starts to grow.
That's not what it said. I
Starts
think
to
it was
expand,
cure.
Harvest. Develop.
No. So as I'm doing this and I'm trying to go fast, and I remember in my head, I'm like, I need to double everything. So I'm going over the ingredients that I need, and I pour it all in the KitchenAid. So I'm like yeast in, butter in, sugar in. I'm not going to tell you how much it was. And I start mixing it. I'm like, wait a minute, this is off. And
Was there a lot of sugar in the recipe?
No. And then I go back and I'm like, something's off. So I read the ingredients. While the yeast is doing its thing, which it could have done its thing if there wasn't a problem, I'm supposed to blend the butter and the sugar together. So now I have everything all mixed in.
Oh, baby.
Exactly. And I'm like, and so I'm like, it is what it is. It's going to be fine. And it looks like shit in the mixer.
You
and
said
then I
you
realized,
read this, like you studied the recipe before.
we started this conversation with knowing that my brain is not working.
I spent 3 days reading this recipe.
I did not expect. You were also like, should we just get Solberg rolls? Like, you were discouraging.
I was not.
And then you
I
were
was
finally
supportive.
like, it was okay. But we got Solberg's rolls as backup.
Store-bought rolls.
As backup, just because.
Just in case.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
never know what that.
So when the yeast started popping all over, and I realized that it was foaming and everything was going wrong, and it was a double batch, I panicked.
Foaming at the mouth. Uh-huh.
I panicked. Okay.
And everything went out the window.
And so as I'm going through in this double batch and realizing I am messing this up, like from the first measurement, I fucked up. And I don't want to pitch all the butter and eggs already. And I'm like, we're just going to keep going with it. And then my bag of flour, that meant I had an excess. I realized I'm making a double batch now.
Oh, no.
I'm probably not going to have enough. And I was only like a cup short.
Okay.
So, however, I'm mixing it. It's going in the KitchenAid. We have a real KitchenAid, not a knockoff. So we have the ones that can handle the bake. It's got the bread hook and it can handle it.
Oh my God.
And it's working. And then you have to go deliver a package, in my mind, to the local post office. And then I need more bread or more flour. And I ask you, but you give me the like, do I need to do it before? And I'm like, you're going to go post office, Solberg's. And then I tell you, I can't talk right now because I'm trying to hold my shit together.
Yes.
Because nothing is working. And so in the meantime, I'm going, it's mixing, it's going to be fine. I'm just hoping it's going to last. Then I text you that I confirmed that, yeah, I needed more flour. And then I start to notice a smell. And it smells like, when you have machinery that's overheating. And I'm like, so I'm looking at the KitchenAid and like, oh, that smells hot. And then I touch it. And it's fucking hot.
Oh,
I'm like, oh my God. So it's
Had
on 10.
you just been running it on 10?
Well, it was thick. So 10 was like it wasn't like, wee, like a 10. It was trying.
Holy shit.
Batch.
So it was on 10 for about an hour and a half.
No. And then I realized, okay, this isn't working. I'm not sure how clean the counter is, but that's okay because I have one of those fondant, like those rollouts that I can throw the dough on and just knead it by hand. Only I can't find that. I don't have a lot of time to cook. So then I take out the little, what's that one cooking thing called?
A silpat.
One of those. And lay it down, this little rectangle with a big old hunkin' double batch. I'm thinking, I'll make it work. I'll just beat it on that. And so try and scrape it out of the bowl, and it's ooey gooey. It is like the ooeyest gooeyest. And I'm trying to still work it because it'll start to toughen up. I just need to keep working it, right? And I'm like stuck in it. You have to like pull your arm out, like, and then it's pulling up because the little rectangle silpap thing isn't staying on the counter. And so I'm trying to like hold that down and not freak out because it's got me. And then I finally just like take whatever I can off my hands, put the cheesecloth over it, and just backed off. And I'm like, I hope you make it in time with the flour. I don't know what's going to happen, but I gave up. And then just started cleaning and putting stuff away and making sure that the KitchenAid wasn't going to start the cupboard on fire.
Buried the KitchenAid because it had burned itself out.
So I'm waiting, and I keep peeking at it. And like, this is like, it's supposed to immediately put in its like container to start rising.
Yeah.
And it's just hanging out on the cold counter. It's just hanging out, and I keep looking at it, and it's starting to get kind of harder around the edges. And I'm like, you'll be okay. Like I had time to do a Facebook story, and I don't ever do those.
Hang in there.
I'm like, you. And then you show up with the flour. And I'm like, Jesus. So I realized you went to Twilla. So you had to go to the next town over. So it was a while. And then I just made it work. I kept with the flour and kept working it and just about knocked the beer over. And then it was time to make it rise. And I had to like crank up the heater and try and do all these things. But it didn't look like it was going to rise. And then I'm in this women's group call that I have. So you go upstairs. Asher goes downstairs. I'm in the kitchen still trying to cook on video with the call so I can still participate, because the way that this was going to go is not the way it's going. So I was going to be done by the call, and I'm like just getting the dough rising. But luckily, when the dough started to rise, I'm like, this is either going to be a funny story that doesn't work and I throw it all away, or it's going to be a tragic that leads to victory. And the dough started rising, and I was like, I'm magic. I'm doing it. I have my mana skill. I can do this. And they look good. So get to where you have to make them rise again. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So after you make them into little balls, you have to rise again. I didn't see that part in the instructions either, but I caught it. So now I have 3 pans.
When did you read these instructions?
Several times.
That's what I'm confused
Stay on
by.
point several times, okay?
But throughout the entire story, you're like,
tell me the story about the Love's gas station.
Shut up.
Or we're going to go to my story?
Go ahead.
This is my story.
You're like, I've read the recipe multiple times.
I did.
And then when it came time, I had to learn all over again everything I had just read. Turns out I needed
multiple
flour.
times.
Turns out I was supposed to put it all in the same bowl.
Oh my God. Okay. So I get it in the oven, and I am being diligent with the time. I am not going to burn these fucking things. I am like, that's my thing that I do most often, is burn the food. So even if we have something that could be grand, I burn it to shit. And then it's not
Deliciously burned food.
Yeah. If it's bacon, it's okay. But anyways, so I get them out just in time, and they're golden and they're gorgeous. And I'm like, getting the butter on the top. And so I've got these 3 pans out, and I take the first one and I try it. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. And I'm like, I'm being critical. I'm just being critical. I'm like, that one had a little grit. I'm not sure what the grit was. So I ate 3, giving myself like, because I'm super self-critical. I'm like, I'm just being critical.
Yeah.
I'm just being like harsh on myself. These are fine. They're going to be good. And I was on my second one when I brought you up too. And then when I saw you were talking to the girls, I'm like, please don't tell them. Is all I could think. Don't tell them. I don't want to be made fun of. That how dare I think that I can achieve this roll feat. And then I have my third one, and I'm like, that sucks. It just sucks. And then you say it's good because you're a nice husband.
No, that was really good.
All of my family was supportive. Even Asher was, and said they liked them. But every single roll I had a little bit of grit. And I don't know if it's because I didn't get not a lot of sugar mixed in well enough, or if it's because I jacked up the yeast from the get-go and it was trying to escape.
Could have been the gravel that you added in.
Then we ended up with, I don't even know how many rolls, a shit ton.
A couple dozen.
It was a lot of rolls.
Yeah.
It was a lot of rolls.
They were so good, though.
And then I remember what my mom said. So I'm telling her like how.
Hold on. That was the one thing I had to remember.
Okay.
What did your mom say?
Oh, let me tell you. So it's funny because I remember my Nana always being like kind of frustrated at the end. We're excited waiting for her rolls, but sometimes she would burn them. And so as I started to tell my mom, it was just a disaster from the get-go. And she goes, just like Nana. And then she said, I said, but they were okay. Everybody seemed to like them. I really didn't. And she's like, yeah, just like Nana. And then she finishes, I said, but the dough still rose. I was still able to get it to rise. And she's like, just like Nana. And she goes, and then she would burn them. Like, I didn't do that. So I was like, that's how apparently...
It's how
wild women make rolls.
Your lineage of women cook.
Fuck it up from the beginning. Still make that shit rise because we're badasses. Think it tastes like crap, but everybody else seems to like it or lie well.
Yeah. No, it was delicious. They are delicious. I had like 5 or 6 that first night, and then I had like so many on the actual day of eating all the food day.
So.
Yeah.
Take from that what you will. You were not. You go to make your own rolls. But I did it.
You did, and they were delicious.
I did it.
Yeah, no, they were really, really good. I was very, I wasn't surprised.
You were.
I wasn't surprised at all. You were incredibly stressed the entire time.
Now you know why. Now you know the story.
And when you decided that you were going to make rolls, I wasn't like, I was like, are you sure you want to?
I know, you were so like.
Because there was a part of me that's like, oh my
dismissive.
God. Because I know that like you put too much pressure on yourself to do things. And then it becomes this like intense experience of it has to be perfect. And not a lot of things were going perfect. And, but it turned out great. They were amazing.
What did you say? I had it on the counter and I just told you a tidbit about the mixer.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, baby, you don't burn down the house. And I just kind of looked at you and was like, I didn't.
No, they turned out good.
Asher didn't say anything to me. He like stayed out of the way.
Yeah,
and
he's
when
no
I
fool.
asked for help, I would ask him to watch the KitchenAid because I would have to run to like look for things. And it was kind of on the counter and I didn't want it to fall off the counter.
Yeah, vibrate and wobble off the counter and
So
try
he-
to kill itself
he
because
would
you were
come.
working it to death.
He would come and just be like, and not mess with anything. And I come back in the kitchen and he was like, gone.
Exactly.
I must have had a vibe.
Well, you did well.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was successful. They were delicious.
It's probably going to be a little while before I try it again.
Well, lucky for you, we don't need a lot of rolls in this house. We do need a lot of biscuits, though, so you're going to need to figure out how to make homemade biscuits from scratch.
Can I do that with Bisquick? That's going to be my next homemade. That's usually my homemade.
Your brain has just been all over the place
Yeah.
for quite a while.
Yeah.
And
It was hard to get through the story.
It was.
How long did it take me? How long have we been recording?
No, you did great. You kept it, that was a short
Is that
20.
20 minutes?
It's not bad. It's a
Thank
good
you.
story. It's funny.
Thank you for hanging in there for a 20-minute
So
roll story.
we've been talking a lot about your period brain, and it's not, it's not your period brain, obviously. I mean, the
See how he's being careful now?
comment that I made this morning was like our brains need a lot of energy
Yes.
to operate, and then sometimes not just during our periods,
He's like, I'm in there with you, Dave.
but sometimes
And it's not even here. It's almost here.
our energy goes to other parts of our body, and then our brain is left with not quite as much operating capacity to perform tasks.
You're describing it as a male getting an erection only in a bad mood.
What do you know? How?
Because the blood flows away to somewhere else, so it's not in the brain. And we need to like it all. So yeah, you are.
I'm not describing it at all.
Only in a bad mood. You're like, it's still blood leaves the brain, goes to other areas.
That could be it.
Yeah.
Who knows? Whatever it is, it's totally okay.
Yeah.
And it makes for great comedy.
What did you say? How did you describe it though? Do you remember?
How did I describe it?
I'll just do that. See if
the
you can
6.
remember.
Well, you can tell.
But it was so good how you said it.
No, it wasn't that funny.
It was funny because I was kind of getting irritated, and then you said that, and I bust up laughing.
Well, it was like
funny.
you need your brain takes so much capacity to operate, and then during certain time periods, that capacity goes elsewhere, and then it leaves your brain with like 6 instead of like the 6 million that it normally operates with. But
it was so true in my body. I'm like, that feels very accurate.
The following day, so the actual day when we had a little bit more prep to do and kind of warm everything up and heat everything up, was such a fun day of watching your brain continue down this path of just doing the best that it can. I mean, it's like the little engine that could, trying to get through the day. And
I'm so glad you cooked the turkey.
I got the turkey in time. My favorite, because you kept being like, "What time are we?"
Like, did you forget to cook the turkey?
I read the recipe a few times before I did this.
That is not a solid
I looked
guarantee.
at the instructions.
That's not a guarantee.
So I had it in my head, and then turns out I got the turkey in the oven right on time.
Oh.
And but I know like this one really upset you, and I feel bad, but it was hilarious.
Okay.
Because you were making the gravy, because you make incredible gravy. I don't make gravy.
The gravy ended up being too thin. The gravy didn't turn out good.
The gravy was delicious. It was super, super good. And so you're making the gravy.
I was really upset.
And we have the gravy in the big roasting pan that the turkey just left. So all the drippings and all the delicious stuff. And you're whipping and doing all your stuff with the gravy. And then it comes time to transfer the gravy from the roasting pan into just a regular pot so that it can continue to warm. And
that was your request.
I think it
because
worked.
You needed room on the stove
I did need
too.
some space.
It wasn't just mine.
Yeah, we had a couple more things that we had to break out. And when you go to transfer the roast, like you go to lift the roasting pan to dump it into the pot, you drop the hot pad directly into the gravy. Not a big deal at all. Not a big deal at all.
It was a big deal.
It wasn't. It's just a mistake. It's not a big deal.
It was.
But I know
it was go time. My brain.
And so then it was like, let me help you. Because
no,
I know from
you didn't
experience.
Say, let me help you. You said, why don't you let me help you?
That's not how I said it. That's maybe how you heard it. I was more of like, beautiful, gorgeous, amazing woman.
No, you weren't.
Why don't you let me help you a little bit, please? I'm happy to. So, because I had like this immediate night, I'm like, she's going to dump that on the floor or in the cat. Like it was going to go. I was making green beans at the time. I'm like, we're going to have some gravied green beans. There was all sorts of things happening. And I'm like, just let me do this, please. We can just get it in the pot and it'll be fine. And we did. And then we had an amazing meal. It was wonderful. We got to spend time with the family and the kids and everything.
I had forgotten to eat this part. I thought I was going to do the mashed potatoes. And I went through and I had not showered yet. I've got my hair up. I'm a mess. There's shit. The day before, I was like head to toe flour. You know, like when you see the sitcoms and they order out, but then spray themselves with flour and around to make it look like they were busy. Like that was me. It was everywhere. And I just rolled with it. But I waited till all of the things were done or in the oven. There was nothing else to do except for wait for it to finish cooking to take a shower. And then I took a long shower. And I was like, washing the stress away. And I was going to do my makeup. And I'm like, it's going to be nice. We're going to have a lot of things or pictures. And then I realized it's about an hour away. And I haven't even peeled the potatoes yet. I'm like, I totally forgot about mashed potatoes. And then I started yelling, I forgot. I'm just like, oh my God. And at this point, I'm like tearing up.
You come into the kitchen in a panic. And I mean...
You had already, they were boiling.
Taking care of everything because there was, I had that all planned already. Anyways.
I felt so bad.
My favorite part of yesterday was watching you put away leftovers. So everybody's done eating and it comes time to, clean everything up and put everything away. And we cooked green beans. We just pan-fried green beans in a big cast iron.
You did.
pan that we use.
It was a really heavy cast iron. I'm
Yeah,
going to
it's
say
a
that
big-
right now. It is big and heavy.
It's a big, heavy cast iron pan.
Heavy. And it was hot.
Well, yeah, because it's cast iron and it
So-
retains heat very well.
Big, heavy, and hot.
Delicious green beans. Anyways, Stephanie is trying to put everything away, and I'm sitting at the table watching her, and she has the Ziploc bag opened up, like on the counter. And keep in mind, a Ziploc bag has no support, right? It's just a piece of plastic.
I've got it like...
Yeah, you've got it positioned in such a way where the opening will, like the...
It's like the bowl. When you turn into kind of
It'll
like
stay
the bowl.
open, right?
As long as it...
And I'm watching you pick up the cast iron pan with hot pads because it's hot. Hold on.
You missed the
this
first
is
part.
my story.
You missed the first part.
What was the first part?
Well, it's where I tried and realized it was hot and then got that hot pad and tried to do it with one hand and it was too heavy.
It is too heavy.
It was too heavy to do with one hand.
So I'm watching you
So I improvised.
with two hands lift this cast iron skillet up above your shoulder in some weird way.
I was balancing.
You were
like-
trying to I don't know what the fuck was going on as you were trying to tip the pan
I was trying to gain in my third hand,
and
okay? I
dump
needed
the green
another.
beans into the plastic bag. And like one or two comes out of the pan and immediately the plastic bag falls apart. Like it tips over and
The dog comes
doesn't stay
running in
open.
and starts.
And I'm watching you and I'm like, hey, right on the counter where you're at are the literal tongs that I used to cook those. You can just pick them up from the pan and put them in the bag if you'd like. And then you're like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, I was like, thank you.
That was my favorite part. Because it was like, I wish I would have filmed it. It was a TikTok moment.
It
It
was
was
a-
a viral video of watching mom try to put green beans into a bag.
And then the tongs were kind of funkied, and I didn't know. So instead of being tongs, they were like,
yeah.
ding, ding. So trying to pick them up was like,
Moral of the story is
I did great.
you did great. We had a wonderful day.
The food was good.
The food was good. The kids were happy. We ate way too much, and we're still suffering the day after. So
It's a shame that I've only started to drink now, and I'm not doing it very fast. I need. So, what do you think of my story? Was it worth the wait?
yeah, it was very worth the wait.
Yeah.
I can picture all of it.
I was gonna tell him like I've got a funny story, but I'm waiting. I'm saving it.
My favorite part, because I can see you turning the KitchenAid on full speed
I didn't start off on full speed. I just realized as it was getting thicker that
and then
We need
proceeding
more
to
power.
leave it running for at least 30 minutes.
it says it has to do it for like 5. And I figured because it was a double batch, that's at least 10, and I didn't have enough. I
and
was
then you
trying
got
to beat it.
squirreled, and then
I didn't get squirreled.
That's my favorite
It wasn't
part.
working, and I needed more flour. And you didn't tell me you were going to Twila. You're gonna go mail a package.
Somebody told me I'm not talking right now. I'm not talking right. And I respected that.
You know, I thought you were going to Grantsville.
I didn't,
How would you think I would think you were going to Twila?
because I said UPS. But that's okay.
That might have been a factor that I missed.
It's not a big deal.
That could have been a clue.
Like I said, we made it through and it was delicious.
Maybe you just thought you said UPS.
That's a possibility.
I think you said post. I heard post office.
We have learned a lot
You
lately
probably said UPS.
that
I
we-
feel like that was true. And
You
I
and I-
just
you and I both do the thing where we think we said something and it turns out we did not. We both have that. So I very well could have
I
said
don't
something
think I
else.
have that so much. I feel like you do. So be careful with active yeast because apparently it gets statically charged and it doesn't happen right off the bat. It sits in the little teaspoon. That's what this is. It sits in the teaspoon for a minute while you're trying to figure out the measurements and then it starts to get a little agitated and starts to like ping pong popcorn, you know, ping,
Bounce
ping,
around.
ping, ping, ping. I didn't know that.
I didn't either. I've never cooked rolls before for a reason.
It's fun. You should try. I did great.
You did do great.
Your food was delicious.
All the food was delicious. We did an amazing job.
I didn't like the rolls.
Well, lucky for you, we all did.
Yeah.
How much stuff do you want to share when it comes? I know eventually you're going to talk at great length about this program that you've been involved with
Yes.
for the last few months and all this work that you've been doing and all the massive amounts of shedding and processing and
I may invite people on. We'll see.
yeah,
It depends. We
Yeah.
have to see how much they're willing to
yeah,
fill it out. We still got another month.
maybe even some of the other ladies that are in the program.
That's what I'm talking about.
That might be good. But anyways, one of the big factors that you and I have been aware of lately in the last week or so, and we kind of highlighted it this morning with our conversation as well, was how much, like, how can I quantify it, babe? And what we were talking about this morning in regards to our communication. And do you remember?
Talking about
Yeah.
okay. How can you quantify it?
Well, I know I've talked about that concept and idea before, like the idea that we support each other and some more burps of the beer. Like the metaphor that I used or have used or continue to use is the idea that when one of us is going through our past in the sense of self-exploration and healing through our trauma and all those kind of different things that take place, it's kind of like we're down in the basement in the dark trying to figure out what's down there, right? We're going into the dark places of our soul and of our hearts and our bodies and discovering some things down there. And a lot of that work we have to do by ourselves. But we're never alone. Like I'm always, or you are, because we do it for each other, kind of at the top of the stairs so that you can always find your way back. I can shine the flashlight and help you, get your bearings and get yourself back to the stairs so that you can make it back out of the darkness. And if need be, I can run down the stairs and go help you and sit there with you as you go through stuff. But I realized this morning as we were talking about things, because so much stuff has been so present for you. You've been going through just copious amounts of not trauma, but growth, really.
Yeah.
And
Trauma's happening with it.
Well, it's
Not
triggering.
like a re-trauma.
It's triggering the trauma.
It is triggering it, but I would totally like I'm also working on not minimizing things to make, like we talked about that, like saying the hard words, saying the harsh words.
Yes.
So working on that too. The memories, the things that are coming through, it's totally a re-traumatization. I don't think it has to be that way. And I know what's coming from it. I can already see, but because it's like I'm remembering things that I haven't, and it's not like events. It's you have an event, but there's so little you remember. And now I'm getting the whole fucking story. And that sucks.
More information of those events, huh?
And I'm like, I don't need those details.
Yeah.
Blocked them out for a fucking reason,
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, and now you have the not just the strength and the ability and the capacity.
Oh, I need some help.
But you have help. You have support. You've got everything in place that you need to start going back through some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I realized this morning as we were talking through some things and whatnot, I'm just in such a completely different place, and I'm not in that deep.
Are you going to be as sensitive about it as you were this morning towards me?
Sensitive?
Yeah. Like I'm hoping you're as kind as you were this morning. I'm just afraid you're going to harsh your way through it, and I'm still very much sensitive. So I guess I'm asking you to, yes, you're in a very different place, but still express it compassionately. As you were very sensitive this morning.
Well, what I'm trying to highlight is it was just a really good awareness of there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you being where you're at going through things, and there's nothing wrong with me being where I'm at going through things. I'm still processing a lot of stuff. Like the last 4 or 5 episodes of this stupid fucking podcast, I've been talking a great deal about some stuff, and
it goes both ways.
Yeah, I'm still going through some stuff, but it doesn't feel quite as deep as your stuff, and I don't feel as entrenched in it.
Oh, okay.
And I have a lot of guilt, and I realized I don't need it. But the guilt that I had and the realization was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with the fact that, because I felt disconnected from the experience of what you were doing and what you've been going through. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I wasn't really giving you the time and not awareness, but like the time and my attention and whatnot in regards to what you've been going through. And I just realized that that's not the case, and that when it is needed, I'm very much dialed in and listening and supportive and understanding and there for you. But then I'm also not all the time, because you don't need me there all the time. You're going through a lot of stuff that you need to go through by yourself, but it's also okay that I'm kind of not in that space. I'm not in the super deep work of my trauma and my past and my experiences. And you and I also aren't in the super deep work of our relationship either right now.
Yeah.
Our relationship is very strong and healthy, and I feel connected to you. I know you feel connected to me as well. And so it was just a good awareness point for me. And the reason I bring it up is because I think that sometimes both you and I do this, but I think that people also do that in relationships where, one person blames the other person for not being, all loving and all supporting all the time when they're going through stuff. And that person, vice versa, might feel guilty. And do you know what I mean? And the fact is, it's like, you're going through what you're going through, and I'm experiencing what I'm going through. And we still support each other when we need to. But was I insensitive just now?
No.
I wasn't trying to minimize anything. I was just trying to.
No. I was just, I felt panicked. And so I was asking, and that also brings me to my point. My next point, like in conjunction with what you said, it's like what I find funny and fascinating about it is, how we talked about how we used to get wrapped up in the other person when they were going through a process, and their process then became our process. So instead of being like how we're doing it now, up to where there's been times where I've reached out and said, oh, like, I need this. Or when I felt like you weren't listening in part and I needed you to, I said, did you hear what I just said? Or I felt like you're not listening. So it's like I grab your attention on that. And then you've done the same. You said, I was really vulnerable in this moment. I just said something really important. And then it was like, so we can like grab each other when the other person isn't there, but we aren't entrenched in this tangled mess of rolling around in the sorrow with the other person, which is what we used to do. And so like we made it a point to practice to get out of that. And so we would do it the way that we were doing it now, that we could be there for the person and be there with them, but not like drowning in a sense. And now that we do it, we're like, well, we got to make it okay. Like this was the goal. Like we're doing it. We practiced enough and now we're actually doing it. And we're like, wait a minute. like this, like one of the things was that
it's just good awareness, right?
It is good awareness. And
sometimes you got to stop and realize where you're at.
I told you this, that brought me relief. That made me feel stronger to go into it myself, because I didn't feel like I had to protect you from my feelings. I didn't have to protect you from this. I didn't have to worry about causing you too much stress and having you maybe resent me for being in it too much. Yeah. And like kind of vice versa. And I know you've got some things going on too.
Nothing.
So it just, the fact that you were there for me if I needed you, but I also don't want you to try and do it for me.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember what happened the other day when I told you I have to do it myself, but like I want to do that. And just knowing that you're not, like you can be there and give me love and then you're not in it and it is me. It's like I feel empowered. I feel strong. I'm sitting here falling apart and a mess, and I can't retain like a second. I'm like Dory right now. I'm like, escape. But I don't have to be afraid of that because I'm not dragging anybody. I have help if I need it, but I also have all the space to just fucking figure this out or fill it out or whatever needs to happen. And things are happening.
Yeah.
So I feel like stronger now. Like, okay, I can do this. Gently.
Is there anything that you want to talk about right now? You don't have to, but is there anything that you want to share as far as what's been coming up, what you've been processing, kind of what the experience has been like and what you're uncovering? Or because we can definitely, I've got something that I want to talk about, so it's not a big deal. I'm just giving you.
Let's talk about your thing then.
Well, because we're talking about this.
You just set that up.
No, I'm planning on talking about what I'm going to talk about.
Let's talk about it.
But if there's something that you want to bring up and something that you feel...
If you're done talking, I'm ready to go. So do you have something to say? But if you don't, it's cool because I'm ready to talk.
So another way to think about it is...
Craig's turn to talk?
Not Craig's turn to talk.
Steph's
by
turn
any
to be
means.
quiet.
No, jerk store.
How many other ways do I need to think about it?
We're talking about this journey that you're on right now. And I know that there's a lot,
Yeah.
but I also am very respectful of not all of it you want to talk about on this podcast. And
Ooh, that's your toe. It
That is
scared
my
me.
toe.
I'm like, what's touching me?
and maybe there is something right now that is rising to the surface that you want to share kind of in the context of what we've been talking about. But I didn't want you to sit and feel pressured. So that's why I said it's no pressure. I've
Yeah.
got something else that I want to talk about.
You just did it again.
Okay. I'm trying to give you
It's not. It's
some
it's,
peace.
it's subconsciously telling me that
I have nothing, Stephanie. The last 20 minutes of this episode is up to you. So I'm going to stop talking now.
I have like there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
There's two prominent things in my head right now, but I feel like they're both long conversations, and I'm scared to talk about it. Like there's part of me that wants to really bad because I need to. But then there's the part of me that's like, you know what? I'll talk about one. It's not happy, obviously. And it's just another way that I've seen to look at things. So what I'm going through is the memories that are coming up is specifically related to massive amounts of sexual trauma. And while there is more than 2 incidences, there are 2 incidences right now that are in my space the most. And it's kind of, I'm going to say it's kind of funny, and I don't know what else to say, but it's kind of funny of like the polarity of them both, because the first one is the first experience that I remember and my little body, and realizing that that's the first time I like pulled out of my body, that I just like kind of disassociated from my body, and that just didn't stop. And the one that I will talk about is how far removed I was, that I didn't even like really, like you stop realizing, like you stop just completely realizing. And it was a very damaging experience in so many different ways, but I did not understand how damaging it was.
Because you were so disassociated through the experience.
I was so, I had lost like self, like in so many different ways. It was the second time that I was, I guess, sexually active, and I don't know that I can call it that. The first time was, it was just like what it was. Like now I realize, it was, the first time was rape, and there's just no other way to say it. And that's really hard to say. But the second time, and I remember thinking like, there's nothing special about me. So it doesn't matter what I do now. Like there's nothing, like the only thing that was special about me was that, because I had zero confidence beyond that. So it didn't really matter what I did with that body, because it was already dirty and gross and garbage now. So I was just whatever. So I might as well try and get love. So I was 13 and had a crush on, I believe he was a senior. He might have been a junior. And he was a bigwig jock of the school, and just very like everybody had a crush on this person. But I was just, and the school was 7th through 12th. So we were all in that school together. And we were at a dance or whatever, because you could also have dances together, because nothing can go wrong there. And so now it's
really
K
good
through
idea.
12. So they just upped their game.
Yeah,
But,
putting 12-year-olds with 18-year-olds, it's a great idea.
It's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's going to go wrong there. So he started giving me attention that night, and I was like, Like, oh my God. And it was consensual. It was absolutely consensual. And it was like ridiculous. You know, it was so degrading. It was ridiculous. Some people had seen, and I got ridiculed for being a slut and being a whore. And of course, he was done talking to me. And then that just like that stigma stuck. And I'm like, I don't care. You know, I didn't even realize that, holy fuck, I'm 13. He's 17. Like that is not a consensual situation. That should not have happened. It's okay if you're 13 and you have a crush on somebody. It's not okay for that 17-year-old to then take you and go have sex with you.
Yeah.
Like, that's not okay. And so just having that, like, I got fucking ridiculed for that. I was a kid. You know, technically 17, he's a kid too, but there's a big difference between 13 and 17. Like, that 17-year-old fucking knew better.
Mm-hmm.
I got out of elementary school and was now with high schoolers. I did not know better.
Yeah.
And maybe situations would have been different. It's not my fault. It's not my fault that I had felt that I wasn't special anymore. It's not my fault that those things happened. But I sure found out a way to blame me. And it wasn't even a fucking secret. And I still was blamed. I was shamed. I was 13.
Yeah.
You know? So, needless to say, I had, like, what the fuck did anything matter? I'd experienced sexual trauma so much that there was, like, it didn't matter. But bad things kept happening.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept mattering. I didn't matter. But... so that's just like that new way to look at that, because this is the first time that I looked at it and that I wasn't embarrassed. That if something would pop up on Facebook, we're not friends on Facebook, obviously, but something would pop up and I would see the connection, or he would like somebody else's post, and I would, like, that shame would wash over me again. And this is the first time that it was like, dude, that shame is yours. That is not my shame. And that's just not my shame. And so I'm done carrying that weight. Because it was consensual, but
not really.
Not really.
No.
So it's stuff like that means I can't fucking cook rolls. Like, how many times did you read it?
Suddenly the roll cooking makes way more sense. Because my guess is that was probably some stuff that was brought up this week, right? Triggered this week, yeah.
Yeah, that happened this week. And got
so,
other things that it's okay, I'll save you from.
What does it feel like today, now?
I feel like I'm on fire right now.
Well,
I'm panicking and so.
Because right now you're not disassociated. Right now you're in your body. Right now you're in the space. So you're re-triggering things. You're bringing up things from the past. There's a part of you that can, I mean, I won't go into detail, but you can go there, right? You can experience it in some way, shape, or form from this present moment. And what does it feel like as you sit here now and kind of take ownership of the experience, but also just physically in your body? You said you're kind of on fire. What else?
It depends on the thing. There's two in my space right now. The one that I just talked about, it's like I'm taking my pieces back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was, I don't feel like justice needs to be done in that situation, because I can look at it in a forgiving way. He was also a juvenile. Barely. But, like, I don't think I need to, like, now go after him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just like, that was fucked up. That's your shame. You get to deal with that now. That's not my shame. I'm not bearing that weight for you anymore. And as far if there happens to be somebody from my old school, I'm not calling, like, I don't care. Like, if you, whatever shame you gave to me, I don't fucking care. Like, that feels strong. That feels like I've taken my power back. Like, I don't care. I don't care what you think. I don't care what any of you think. I don't care what any of you say. Those that can look at that now as adults, what I'm guessing the majority of them are gonna be like, yeah, that was pretty fucked up. That's pretty fucked up. That feels strong. I'm still like scared. And I can feel my voice shake, and it fucking pisses me off when I hear my voice shake and heat. But I'm like, I feel like I'm planted, you know, like, no, this is yours. This is not mine. You get to take all of this back and figure out what to do with it. And whether he remembers or not, I know he remembers, but whether that's something that is in his conscious or not, or whether it's already gone, because I know I'm not the only one. There's a history there. So I'm probably lost in a mix of that behavior. Not about him,
right? Like you said.
Regardless, though, that is not mine anymore. Like, I give it all back to him, and I feel strong. The other one, not so much. The other one's hard.
It takes more time, huh?
Yeah. The other one is feeling very, the other one's hard. The other one is not a separate thing where I have that strength. The other one is, there's some work to be done there.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling so good in that space.
Well, if we go back to my metaphor of the stairs and being in the basement, and keep in mind, you have help.
I'm fucking embarrassed right now.
I know.
Yeah.
It's hard, baby. I know from experience, it's hard. But you're not alone.
Yeah.
I'm at the top of the stairs. It's simply because I'm like, even though I might be busy doing something, I haven't left that space. I'm there. And as soon as I hear you call out, I immediately respond.
And I need you to stay the fuck out until I call.
Yeah, I'm not interested in going down into your basement.
It's a mess right now.
Yeah,
I'll let you know.
Totally fine. It's not a big deal. The last few episodes, I've talked a lot about what I've been processing through in regards to my relationship with my brothers and all of these dynamics in regards to like interpersonal relationships with men and how I'm feeling and all this kind of different stuff. And what came up for me this week at our men's group was I had this realization that
took your cue. I'll take a breath too. Thank you.
I had the realization that whenever I meet any man, even if it isn't, I mean, it's literally any encounter period with a man, whether it is, it can be as simple as walking past somebody, right? It can be as simple as if somebody is going to be in my space for any longer than just a brief moment as they pass me by or something like that. My immediate reaction and response is to size that person up into two categories. Can I kick their ass or can they kick my ass? And that's just how I see all men, and all men go into one of those two categories. And I've realized this before. This isn't some brand new epiphany, but there's a deeper layer to it of realization of, I don't have any relationships with men, and I don't have any friends that I can really think of that I would classify into the category of they can kick my ass. I can think about a lot of men that I know that I feel like can kick my ass. And some of them I'm friends with, but I don't have really close friendships with them. I'm not really, they're just acquaintances. They're just, you know what I mean? Yes, we're friends, and yes, so on and so forth. But yet they're not like my close personal friends that I have experience with. And all the men that I have had friendships with over the course of my life, I've been looking at and seeing if I could find somebody who I've had a really close, intimate, connected relationship with over the course of my life, even all the way back to like growing up and, you know, some of my first friends and things like that. And I can't find anybody in that space that I would classify into that group of somebody that can kick my ass. And I feel, I don't like talking about this because I feel like it makes me come off and be seen as a very stereotypical man that thinks that he's like the shit and can beat everybody up and judges everybody by that standard. And if you can't beat me up, then I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it makes me come off as this very douchey, stereotypical guy. And so I don't like talking about it. I don't even like thinking about it. I don't like recognizing that this is something that I've done. And I've been trying to sit in the space longer and longer and longer and see why. Like, why I've done that. And there's some things that are immediately obvious. There are some things that are very clear, right? Like, I'm not going to be friends with somebody that I'm intimidated by. I'm not going to be friends with somebody that I think can hurt me. I'm not going to open up and connect with somebody that I feel a physical threat to, even if they're not threatening. Like, none of this has to do with men being threatening or, violent with me. None of it has anything to do with that. It's completely just my own internal judgment and dialogue of like, can I kick this guy's ass or can I not? And if I can kick this guy's ass, then I'm more likely to open up and be vulnerable with him and be a friend with him. And if I feel like he can kick my ass, then I'm going to kind of keep him on the outside. I thought about this dynamic too, because some of the men that I can think about that I feel like can kick my ass, I have such massive respect for. I put them up on this pedestal of like, I revere them almost in a sense. And I have so much respect for them. And a lot of it has been like, I'm thinking about this guy. He's the guy that taught me all my jiu-jitsu stuff back in the day. His name is Rich. He's a really, really sweet guy. Really, really good guy. Totally has the ability to choke me. Like, do you know what I mean? It never really mattered how long we would roll. He would eventually submit me and make me tap in some way, shape, or form. Mark's been on the podcast before, Mark Johnson. Same thing. It doesn't matter what I do or how hard I try. Eventually, Mark's going to make me tap. And I respect both of those guys so much. But yet, even though I had a more... Go ahead. You had a sneeze?
I did, but that one, I don't...
You had a fart?
It was a sneeze, hopefully not accompanied by a fart, but I was like, hold on, everybody, and prepped for it, and it got scared. So sorry, please continue.
I had a bit of a friendship with Rich. Like, I remember I had forgotten that, like, we hung out a few times outside of, like, I went over to his house and played poker, and like, we had a friendship. And even though it wasn't, I don't know, I'm going to start rambling about this because this is something that is still really fresh for me and I'm in the midst of processing. And like, on the surface, I totally understand why. Like, I understand that my brothers beat the shit out of me, so I didn't trust men that I thought, had the potential to hurt me physically. So of course I wasn't going to open up and be friends with them. Do you want another beer?
Yeah, thank you. I finally drank it.
So there's a lot that is just plain as day simple to understand. But in processing through it, I've realized there is something that I'm not aware of.
Yeah.
There is something some dynamic in this dynamic that I can't see right now.
Can you not see it?
But I can feel it.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to figure out what it is so that I have a better understanding of it. Because
This is exciting.
Well, it's not that I think I'm not damaged, I'm not broken. There's not necessarily something in this space that I have to fix. It's just a really deep desire to understand why.
Yeah.
And I think the root of that desire is the thing where I no longer want to judge men that way, and I want to be able to be open with them.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not, like, I just simply don't want to classify men into those two categories anymore when I meet them. So I know you have some awareness. I can feel it.
That's okay.
Falling out of your mouth right now.
It's actually not.
I'm trying to keep it back. Do you want to share it?
No, I think you need to find it on your own.
Well, that's not helpful. What do you think? Tell me, I want to know what you think. I really do.
You really do?
Yeah. Like, I'm sure you can see all the surface stuff that I was talking about of why it's obvious that I do this thing, but
it's easier to be vulnerable, and when it's not really a risk to be vulnerable. Still not landed. You're like, what the fuck does that mean?
No, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, yeah, like you said, a multitude of things. Your brothers were created great safe spaces for you to be yourself. But that totally makes sense of like, when do you get to come out? Like, when do you get to come out? You get to come out if it's safe. Otherwise, it's too scary to come out. So if I can kick your ass, then okay, I can come out. I can be safe because goddamn it, if I'm vulnerable with you, you can't hurt me. But if you can hurt me, I can't be vulnerable with you, because what if I say, well, you see me, you can hurt me. You have the power to hurt me. So I'm going to make sure that I structure it a way that I can breathe a little bit, maybe, even though you still fully won't let yourself come out. But I can be vulnerable. I can be me. I can not be, I don't think it's about you sizing up men at all. I think it's about where can I breathe and feel safe? Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I mean, yeah, that idea of like being myself and being who I am. I mean, it's still scary today, right? I think about the relationships that I have with men today, and it's still hard to do that. It's still scary.
It's scary.
Yeah. We have to go.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
This episode is over. We're not talking about this anymore.
I don't even know if you're joking. I feel like you're serious.
We do have to go.
Okay.
Only because I have to pee really, really, really bad.
I'm sure.
I really do.
I believe you.
And
there's 2 bottles over there. Aim carefully.
Just
pinch the tip in between.
Go over off camera and take care of business.
It's okay, just turn your back. It'll be fine.
No, thank you. And I'm excited. This year is almost over. We're coming to the end of 2020. We've got a handful of episodes left, but I'm excited to see what else we get into in the final weeks of 2020.
Yeah.
Because I think we got some more good episodes ahead of us.
I don't know if they're going to be hard. I think I might start drinking before the podcast. So I get on with like mascara smeared, one boob hanging out because my shirt's hanging down and I can't have a bra on. But like, when you're like that sloppy, I'm going to have one shoe and be like, let's talk.
Yeah. Then you'll be ready.
I'll be ready then.
Lately, and we say this all the time, but we have a lot of new people coming in and listening and downloading and subscribing, and we're super grateful for that.
Let me know if I helped you out with your roll recipes.
Yeah. Go to the webpage, go to our website, and Stephanie will put the recipe up on there.
I will do a live. Should I do a video?
We should
like,
do a video
this is how
next
you
time. But if you are one of the people that have listened from the beginning, and if you're one of the people that have been supporting the podcast for a very long time, thank you so freaking much. Like, it doesn't go said enough, I think, of how much, even though there's plenty of ways that you could like support the show with giving us money, and we'll obviously always take money from people without an issue, but just the mere fact that you listen and that you support the show with that means so much to us. And thank you for everybody that has continued to support the podcast in that way, shape, and form over the years, because it's been pretty cool. And it's pee time.
It's pee time.
Thank you, baby. I love you very much.
I love you.
Thank you for listening, folks.
Thank you.